NCAA lacrosse is legit finally here as Vermont traveled out west to take on startup Utah. Ended up being an excellent day for a game. Looked like the sun was out a little bit. You could tell that they had some snow, but the field was cleared off well. I'm in upstate New York battling the polar vortex while these guys are running around in the sun in shorts, kicking off the 2019 lacrosse season. So Vermont goes up by 2 goals early on goals from Milschling and Hudson. And then my boy Jimmy Perkins puts up the Utes' first ever lacrosse goal on a feed from Cambier. And it was a nice shot. It ended up being his only goal on the day. He looked hobbled. He has a knee brace on. He missed 2 seasons. He tore it up last year, though, for Robert Morris. So he's a hell of a player, but he looked hobbled, and apparently he had an ankle injury that had resulted in him missing the last scrimmage also. So he looked like he was injured. I was surprised that they kept him in the whole game, so there must not have really been a risk of him injuring himself anymore. But he did look a little bit beat up, a little bit hobbled, and he finished the game out, though, so that's a good sign. And once he gets his legs back under him again and that ankle healed up, he's going to do excellent things. Rinse and repeat. Vermont scores 2 goals over a 42-second span, taking a 4-1 lead. Hudson gets his second, and Klosterman gets his first. And Klosterman looked good on the day. He ended up with a hat-trick before the game was out, and he looked solid as well. So it looks like Vermont does have a couple of pieces in place here to try to help with the loss of Ian McKay. I am not an easy guy to surprise, but something surprised the hell out of me. An MCLA All-American from a year ago, Josh Stout, number 1 for Utah, the wee man. The kid goes to the rack. He starts out at X. He goes to the rack hard up the right side, completely dusts his defender, just leaves him in his tracks, and gets Utah to within 4-2. But immediately, I was surprised because, I mean, the speed with which he torched his man, and I'm not sure if the first one was number 22. He torched number 22 a couple of times on the day, gave him a lot of problems, but the kid looked legit. So we'll see as the season goes on. But if they were able to snag a kid of this quality, or at least he looked quality today off that club team, then maybe they have a couple other gems that'll pay dividends for him down the road. But the Josh Stout kid, I think he has a brother that plays on the team also. Can't remember what his name was. But Josh Stout, number 1 for Utah, is going to be a hell of a player for sure. We end up with our first dive goal of the season. Liam Limoges, however the hell you say that. He gets horizontal for his first goal. He scored 2 on the day. And that was pretty much the ball game from there. I mean, 5-2 doesn't sound all that terrible, but it ended up being terrible because 5-2 then ends up becoming 10-2. Ben French, he netted a nasty goal to give them an 8-goal lead, a 10-2 lead. And French looked good on the day. He ended up with 4 goals, 2 assists, and looked solid. His game was solid all around, and he is certainly going to help Vermont with the Ian McKay hangover, because there is going to be a little bit of a hangover. I think you didn't see it today necessarily, but I think you will see it as their competition gets a little bit stiffer. So he's going to be one of the big cats to help them get over that hangover a little bit. He will be like the Bloody Mary on a Sunday morning for Vermont. And even though the game was pretty much over at 10-2, there was still a lot of time to play, but the writing was on the wall. But once again, that Josh Stout kid, he puts up 2 goals over about a 6-minute span late in the second quarter, and both of them solid. One of them was a dodge from the corner to the middle of the field, a nice dodge, kind of got himself downhill, got his hands free, and ripped an excellent shot, upper 90. And then his third goal, he scored a hat trick in the first half, but his third goal, another one coming up the right side and just scorched his man again. The kid is fast, so teams are going to be ready for that a little bit more in games to come. But it'll be interesting to see what this kid could do because he looked dangerous, and he started drawing a lot more attention in the second half, which would explain him scoring a hat trick and then not putting anything else up after that. But solid player, Josh Stout. So be sure to keep watching him. So 10-4 at the half isn't bad. That's almost exactly where I thought they would end up being. I figured Vermont would jump out to a quick lead, and when it was 10-2, I was like, yeah, that's what I assumed was going to happen. The Utes defense looked a little worse than I thought. They looked a little rough, but 10-2 seemed right. And then Stout puts up the 2 goals late, which helped. So 10-4 at the half was exactly what I thought I'd see. What I was hoping to see from there was that the Utes would come out and maybe score another goal or 2 early before letting Vermont, put up a couple more. What we ended up seeing was Vermont outscore Utah 11-2 over the second half. They beat them up in the second half. And it's not to say that I didn't think it could happen. I knew that could happen, and I knew that Utah's defense was suspect, but they were a bit rougher than I imagined. So that's going to be a problem for Utah all season, I suspect. Their goalie didn't look too bad. It just looked like the defense gave up a lot of shots. It could just mean that Vermont is nasty, but it could also just be that Utah's defense is really bad and they're going to struggle all season long. But in the end, Vermont looked as good as advertised. Nick Washuta looked tall in cage. He stood tall in cage, 9 saves. He looked like an All-American. He did. He was solid. It honestly probably hindered Utah a little bit in their effort to try to keep pace. So he ends up with nine saves on the day, only 6 goals against. So that looks good for him. If he only goes for 6 saves on the day, that's a little bit more respectable, and maybe you take a couple of goals away from Vermont's side. But that did not happen. So Washuta looked great in the cage, and Utah's going to take some beatings, that's for sure. But what's important is that they impressed, they showed, and there's a new team out west. And no matter how you look at it, no matter how they finish off the season, no matter how many beatings like this they take throughout the year, this is a win for lacrosse, having this team out there, having this team funded, having Holman coaching, especially with the staff that he brought in. So this is a win for lacrosse. I think it was a little overhyped. I overhyped it a little bit. I was hoping it was going to be a slightly closer game, but I think in the end what we saw was that Vermont is as good as advertised, and that Utah is a first-year team that's going to take some beatings against some good competition. That's it. We're good.